Good morning everyone, and welcome back to the cabin. I guess as you've seen in the last video, I got a whole lot of the trim, what I call the big room, which comprises, the area where the stove is, the front area right here around the front door in the kitchen. But I got a lot of that trim on there, and I'm a little bit undecided what I'm going to do right in here. My countertop will actually come to right about here. So if I continue that, what I call wildwood, I'll have just enough room for the countertop if I get a fairly narrow piece. But I'll have to have some help holding it up here because I'm going to have to measure and cut and make sure that it fits everything and it looks good. And then I've got, the 2x10s that I put behind this wall for these open shelves. So I'm going to have to mill some shelving, and I think I'll go ahead and mill it 2 inches thick. I'll leave a live edge on one side of it, but I'll have 2 shelves up here that I'm going to try to find a tree that I can get at least a 10-inch, if not more, out of that. So I'll have 2 right here, I'll have 2 right here, and then I'll have 2 right here. So there'll be a lot of open shelf space. And then what I plan on doing is building my own countertops. I've got 5 sheets of that exterior plywood that I actually put down here on the bottom. So I'll probably mill up some 2x2s, and that's what I'm going to build my counter with. So I'll have a couple of doors on this side of the sink, a couple at the sink, a couple more here, and quite a bit of storage space actually, because I don't really have, since I didn't build a lot of walls, I don't have a lot of closets, and I need some storage space. Now I do have this area right beside the refrigerator that's a small area that I plan on putting a mop bucket and a few things like that, because I think I'm going to go, you've probably heard me say that, luxury laminate flooring. So I'll need a way to mop and clean that. But I had thought about it one time, milling up a bunch of poplar, putting it down, screwing it in, and just letting it shrink over a year, and just kind of dealing with it, because I knew it, the cracks would open up, and then kind of fill those with sawdust and put a clear coat on it. But the fact that I have fought so much with a lot of dust in here, I'd kind of like to knock that down if I could. And I have a good friend who does nothing but flooring, and he told me that that would probably be my best bet, because it could withstand a whole lot of stuff. And the other thing too is, if you put something down that has to be glued, and you decide later on that you want something different, you've got a big job ahead of you trying to pull that up. So since I didn't use, and he told me that also that I wouldn't have to use any plywood on top of this flooring right here. I could actually put that down because it kind of just floats along the floor. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Roughly it'll be about $2,000, so I'll have to save a little for that. But as soon as I get all of this trim done on the main floor, I'm not talking about overhead, as soon as I can get all this done on the main floor, then I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my flooring in. The reason that I didn't do any plumbing in the wall is because those beams, the main structure, actually this post right here, and of course the beams are 7 inches wide, and where the floor joists run, they're 10 inches deep. If they run with the floor joist, I only put 7x7s because it wasn't really weight bearing. But my point is, I didn't want to drill a lot of holes through to run plumbing. So what I decided to do is to build my countertop and just run my plumbing on the inside of the cabinet straight down. And if I get it close enough to that beam, I can actually attach it to the beam with a clamp, and that will keep it from wanting to sag through. But yeah, that's the idea that I had. So it won't be long and I'll start working on some countertops in here. But I need to get that main floor down first. So that will be a little while. I'll probably use some totes in here. I can go ahead and put the shelving up because I can actually stack stuff on the shelving. But I'll probably use some totes for the time being until I get ready to work on those countertops. But the next, I guess, biggest thing to work on is to finish this. I've got some help coming to finish this last row of sheetrock here on the ceiling. And as soon as I can mud those screw heads 3 times, get them sanded off, I can paint that. Then the next thing would be to close all of this utility area up here. Now let me show you where I'm going to put my power panel. There's a lot of wires that are laying on the ground back here behind all of this scrap that I've got. And of course this is one that's coming overhead that actually goes to the kitchen. But there's also several when I ran the wiring underneath for the main runs to each one of the rooms. I have to drill a hole or drill holes through the floor and pull those up. But the power panel is going to go right here, so I need to go ahead and purchase that, get it installed, and close this up because this is the only wall that is or portion of a wall that is left that hasn't been covered going to the outside and the ceiling. If you're new to this channel, this is an area for washer dryer. The dryer will actually be propane, and then I'll have a demand hot water heater hanging on this wall right here, which would be propane. And the refrigerator, I'm going to go ahead and purchase a propane refrigerator. So regardless of you know, future power, whatever type that I use, you know, if, for example, if I was on the grid and there wasn't any power, the light wouldn't burn the refrigerator, but it would still work. So that was my point in trying to get something, you know, that would allow me, because, you know, the on-grid power in this area here back in the mountains, there's a lot of problems with trees and you know, storms and stuff like that that knock people out of power, and I didn't want to be without, you know, refrigeration and things like that. So that's the reason that I'm going propane. It is more expensive to do that, but that is my idea nonetheless. So yeah, the kitchen it's coming along. The whole cabin is coming along. Let me turn your camera around here and I'll show you what the project I'm going to work on today. This room right here was going to be a bedroom, but I decided, you know, since I'm single and I, you know, needed an area for a television, watch my DVDs, and if I can get hooked up on the satellite that we're trying to achieve, which would be Starlink, because from what I understand, the satellites with Starlink are only about half the distance from the Earth, and the people that get it have much faster internet speed. So I want to be able to load the videos here. I want to be able to stream YouTube if I can here. Sometimes I can do that on my cell phone, sitting up there at the outdoor kitchen. If I have it on the table, I can actually stream video. But down here, that radiant barrier, it just kills the signal because it cannot penetrate that barrier. So I'm going to have to get some sort of a gain device once I get some power to run it, and set up a Wi-Fi system in the house. That way, you know, when I come in, I can actually have service and I don't have to stand at the window to talk to anybody. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to move all this stuff out of here. I'm going to stain this right here so that I can get these 2 windows trimmed out and the rest of the trim done in here. And then behind the camera, this little area right here below this dog cage, I need to stain that, and then I'll probably run some trim at least on this corner here because the fronts are not finished, and where I can put my trim in here. So most of that will be done with the exception of that utility area. That front room can actually be trimmed out once I get that done too. So the whole lower level, well, the bathroom, I do have to trim out that window in there, and then the four corners in the bathroom. And then at some point, I don't know how soon, but at some point I'll mill up some joists that will go up top. That way I can have something to attach a ceiling to. The bathroom is going to be the only room that actually has a ceiling. But I need to mill those up 7 inches high, because they will actually look like a beam that I put in there up top, looking at it from this area right here. Let me show you. Part of this main structure, you can see that beam that's running through, which is the original. What I'm going to do is mill a 2-inch thick by 7 inches wide poplar, because I want it to match. Go all the way across here. That's what I'm going to attach the joists to, and it will appear like it's another beam, but it was all made like that. So as soon as I do that, it'll overhang this wall a little bit. That's why I'm making it 2 inches thick, and I'll be able to attach my 3/4 molding like I use everywhere else. And like I said, it will appear like everything was made that way. But yeah, it's looking really good and coming along. I've still got, all the trim to do on the ceiling, but I figure that, if I can go ahead and get it buttoned up, that's something that I can always do through the winter time. Now let's go outside and I'll show you another project. Well, my son will be here from Texas in about a week, and we are going to start working on the front porch. So this is all the material that I've cut so far for that. This is the decking material, and of course that's the floor joists. I still need to cut 4 floor joists that are 12 foot long, but after I do that, then that is all the material that I need for the decking and the stairs. I'll work on the handrail at a later date, but I'm excited about getting that front porch, at least the decking material, put on where I can use the front porch, and have a set of steps to come up. And then probably next spring, I'm thinking, maybe throughout the winter I'll mill up some material, stack it up, and I'll start building the back deck. I'm also going to have a wheelchair ramp that'll come out pretty close to the front, where the front steps are. That way, in the event that EMS has to come up here and pick me up, for whatever reason, they'll be easy to get in and get back out. But yeah, I'm excited about getting that front porch on there, so that will be a nice addition to the cabin, and really looking forward to that. So that is the next big project that we've got up here at the homestead. Well, we haven't had too many different comments since the last video. A lot of them are still in general, talking about, the same thing basically. But, there were several comments about the painting, about the time that it's taking, and so forth. And I know a lot of you guys follow the Outpost channel too. That's just part of it. It took a long time. I think it was like 8 weeks to get that siding on there, and the painting, Lord, that's a job that I probably dislike the most, but it has to be done. And when I shoot video up here, the video is being shot basically is what I'm doing. So that's part of the cabin, that's part of when you put a building together. And painting, it does take time, and there's nothing else that I probably hate worse than painting. Finishing sheetrock, I don't like that either, but it has to be done, so yeah, I've got just about everything done. I've got a little bit of staining to do, and then all that will be taken care of, so there won't be too many more videos. I thought that siding would never end, because I think it took me 7 or 8 weeks to get that on there. And I'll tell you what, but the way the videos are designed up here, it's basically my lifestyle. And so if you're watching it, you're going to see the things that you may not like to watch, or the things that I don't like to do. But it's all part of it, and you have to do it in order to get it complete. So the other thing was, why did I use plywood for the walls? Well, I kind of like, I didn't want all sheetrock in there, and I didn't want all wood in there, because anybody that's ever had a cabin that's made strictly out of wood, inside and out, after years go by, you kind of get tired of looking at the wood. But the way that I did my other cabin and the way that I did this one is pretty much the same. Now the materials are different. I used tongue and groove on the other cabin, of course. I didn't, I took a loan out for that house. This one is completely paid for because I've just been doing it as I go. But I used tongue and groove on the bottom portion and then sheetrock on the top. That way I can paint the upper portion. You can actually change colors, and you don't have to look at wood all the time. But I like wood as opposed to sheetrock. And so that's the reason I kind of decided to go the upper half sheetrock and the bottom side wood. I think the flooring material that I put in there is going to be a lighter color. So now I will have light, I will have a darker bottom on the wall, and then I'll go back to a lighter color on the floor. So it should really look good when I get it done. Plus the durability of having the plywood on the bottom, because I bumped it several times with the ladder, and there's no dents, there's no holes that you can have with sheetrock. So furniture being moved around, the dogs, they're all the time bumping into something because they get a little rowdy at times, if I haven't been able to let them outside. So that just provides a stronger wall, and a lot more durability in case of an accident and something happens. But I'm really liking the way that this exterior plywood that I put in there, I'm liking the way that it turned out. And even though it's only 3/8 inch thick, it still provides, like I said, a lot of durability for the wall, and it wasn't all that expensive. So that's the reason that I put it in there. I did get a call from the taxidermist earlier, and he said that the bear pretty much is trash. He wanted to know, was it hot when they killed it? Did I get it iced down before I brought it out there? And yes, I did. But he said when he got it out of the tanning solution that the hair is starting to slip on it. So not in all the places, but he said that he felt like if the hair slipped in some spots, that it may slip in others. So pretty much there's not a whole lot he can do with it. He is going to take the skull, boil it. He's going to take the claws off, and he's going to send that to me. So that's what I get. It is what it is, but we'll find a place. We may hang it on the kitchen here, we may hang it on the inside in there, but at any rate, we will get something out of it. I kind of, I really hate that, because I was looking forward to hanging that on the wall in there, but you can't go back and change that now, and the hide wouldn't really be any good to me. So like I said, he's going to send me the skull or the head mount and the claws. So I told you I would give you an update on that. The blackberries also that my neighbor brought up here, they're a hybrid. They're humongous, and he is going to get me a start of those, and I'm going to try my hand at growing them up here. So hopefully I can do a good job at that, and we can start to have some blackberries, because they're about half the size of a golf ball. That's pretty big. So I'm excited about trying my hand at that too. And then one of the other comments, or a lot of comments that I get, are about the stove, about the Buck stove. Buck's been around a long time. I can remember my grandfather was actually a dealer for Buck stoves when he was alive, and he sold several of those. Somebody was talking about them being a fireplace insert, and we actually had a fireplace insert ourselves. It wasn't the Buck stove, but it was called a heatilator, and it was primarily a fireplace built inside of another fireplace. Those actually had a 4-inch gap between them. It had a taper going up to where you set it up inside the flue, and then it had a couple of mounts, 2 up top and then 2 down at the bottom. The 2 down at the bottom had fans that pulled air in, and then it blew it out the top vents. That's what I consider a fireplace insert. But the buck stove is made where you can actually put it in the fireplace, or you can actually leave it set out. And it is double walled, so the outer portion doesn't get as hot as the inner portion because that air is circulating around and blowing out. But it still gets quite warm, so I'll be able to heat water up, you know, and soup and things like that. I would have to have a pretty good fire going in there a long time to be able for it to get hot enough to boil anything, I think. I had thought about a single wall stove when I you know, before I had purchased that one, but when I ran into that stove, I got it for $500, and I can remember back in the 70s, you know, they were about $800-900, I think, new then, and this guy was writing, said that same stove would run about $3,500 new now. But you know, the fan that's mounted in the back, it worked. I think that the guy, you know, he put new gaskets on it, and he also you know, re-blacked it, but it's in great shape, and like I said, it was only $500, so I went ahead and picked it up. And so far it seems, even on those chilly nights it got down, you know, into the 40s and to the low 50s, it did a great job, and I didn't even use the fan. So I think that the insulation and the radiant barrier are doing a great job. I may not even have to use the fan in the area that I'm at, because it very rarely gets below freezing too much. So I'm hoping that, you know, that's the case, that I don't have to use the fan. Hey guys, I'm going to go ahead and shut the video down here. Really appreciate you tuning in to both of our channels, and my son, my daughter, and I, you know, we can't thank you enough for sharing our content with your family, friends, and neighbors. Fall, winter's getting here. You've heard me say this before, and so are the holidays. Please go down there underneath around the description section. Check out our store. There's a lot of things in there for fall and winter wear. There may be something in there that you like. Also, towards the end of the video, you'll see some icons pop up. If you want to watch the most recent Outpost video, click the top left-hand corner. If you want to watch the most recent review video, click the bottom left-hand corner. Also, if you're new to this channel, we do giveaways on both channels, so be sure and go to our website, SmokyMountainOutpost.com. Check that out, because you can find all the details there on how to enter. Guys, we hope that each and every one of you have a great day. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.